Company versus 2, it is vital that each player masters a build order and understands correct unit composition. Today, I'm going to talk about a Soviet build order that can be used to counter any opponent you come against when used correctly. This build order is extremely strong with any Soviet commander. However, I would like to mention three in particular that I think are strong commanders that would work with both new and experienced players. First of all is Lend-Lease Tactics. Lend-Lease Tactics is a great overall commander. It has a good medium vehicle, the M4C Sherman. It has the Dishka 38 HMG. It has Assault Guards, very good elite infantry. It has a Z Supply Truck, which is situational. And it has the Conscript Repair Package, which is quite useful. Guard Motor Coordination is one of the most popular Soviet doctrines, and it is popular for a reason. It has the T-34-85, which is just a upgunned and extra health version of the T-34-76. It also has Guards Rifle Infantry, again, very strong unit that can be used as a light counter to vehicles, as well as a decent anti-infantry unit. It has the 120mm Mortar Squad, Vehicle Crew Repair Training, which is also very useful, and Marked Vehicle, which is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. Finally, we have Airborne Troop Tactics. This is mostly about the first ability, the Weapons Crate drop, which drops SVTs that conscripts can pick up and makes them much more effective. The Dishka HMG is obviously a very strong HMG. Airborne Rally Points, not particularly useful. Airborne Guards troops are a strong anti-infantry variant of the Guards, and the IL-2 anti-tank rocket strike is very useful for finishing off weakened and snared vehicles. In the early game, you want to build a second squad of combat engineers, followed by 3 squads of conscripts, and then medics at your main base. Once you have the munitions available, you should upgrade your engineers with flamethrower and minesweepers, and use your conscripts to keep your engineers in the fight as long as possible using their merge ability. Your flamethrower is your most powerful weapon here and will cause the most manpower damage over time, so you want to keep it on the field as long as possible. In the early game, it's also very important that you prep the map. This means place sandbags in areas that will be advantageous for you, but cannot be used easily by your enemy. It also means that you should wire off any kind of green cover that your enemy has access to using your engineers, and you should also place mines in areas that you think light vehicles or infantry will potentially go over later on in the game. In order to transition to the mid-game, you need to build the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 buildings once you have the fuel and manpower available to you. Do not build the Tier 1 building as it is not required for this build order. At this point in the game, the next unit you want is an elite infantry unit. This could be your commander's guards, airborne guards, assault guards, or even a Dishka HMG. This will nicely round out your infantry and put a lot more pressure on your opponent. The key to having a strong mid-game, however, is the timing on your light vehicle. At this point in the meta, the T-70 is considered the go-to light vehicle for Soviets, and should come on the field around 7 to 10 minutes. If your T-70 is later than 10 minutes, I do not recommend building it, and instead you should go straight for medium tanks, as I'll describe later. The other unit that you should build in mid-game is a Zeiss anti-tank gun. This could come before your T-70 if your T-70 is later, or it could come after your T-70 if your T-70 is earlier, depending on your fuel control. You could also consider upgrading your conscripts with the grenade package. This gives them Molotovs and anti-tank grenades, which can be used to counter a variety of infantry and vehicles in the mid-game. At this point in the game, you want to apply massive pressure on your enemy using your T-70. Your T-70 is the key here. It can quickly destroy enemy infantry squads and even apply pressure to enemy light vehicles, especially when combined with your Zeiss. The Zeiss itself is also a powerful tool not only for destroying enemy tanks, but for also destroying enemy team weapons using its barrage ability and destroying enemy cover. To transition to the late game, you need to build a Tier 4 building called the Mechanized Armor Campagna. This building gives you access to tanks and rocket artillery. The Tier 4 building also allows your conscripts to upgrade with the Mobilized Reserves ability. This gives them a squad size of 7 and makes them cheaper to reinforce. You should do this as soon as possible. The most important thing in the late game is the timing of your first medium vehicle. For the T-34-76, this should be between 13 and 19 minutes depending on your fuel control and if you were able to build a T-70 or not. Another important part of the late game is to build a second Zeiss anti-tank gun. This could come out before or after your first medium tank, depending on your fuel control. This is extremely important for countering Wehrmacht and OKW medium vehicles, as the T-34 itself will not be enough. Once you have your first medium tank and second anti-tank on the field, the choice of what to do next is yours. If you're getting pressured very hard by enemy heavies, you could build an Su-85. If there's a lot of enemy blobs of elite infantry running around, you could use a Katyusha. If you don't know what to do, though, I recommend building another medium tank. This could be another T-34-76. It could be a T-34-85 if you're using guard mortar coordination, or it could be the M4C Sherman if you're using Lend-Lease. All of these are very strong options. In the late game, it's very important to work your units together and not send them in piecemeal. Use your medium tanks in combination with your anti-tank guns and conscripts to quickly take out enemy vehicles. It's also important to remember to continue to place mines with your engineer squads. Mines have the ability to completely change an engagement against your opponent and to even win the game for you. I hope this video is a useful starting point for players who are looking to jump into Company of Heroes 2 and more specifically into Soviets. This is a very strong build order that can take you all the way to the top ranks of the game, and can be used with any Soviet commander, and can be used against either Axis faction. As you begin to master this build order, you'll notice the moments when you can actually diverge from the build order. For example, you may need to build a mortar, or you might need different elites infantry based on your commander, maybe shock troops. You might want to build a early Katyusha instead of a T-34-76. But I recommend you to stick to this build order as closely as you can until it is 100% ingrained in you. Then branch out to try new things.